Right, here we go. We're going to take the icons we've done so far. We've got the cloud, we've got the sun, and we've got the rain raining there and looking all lovely and fantastic. And we're going to bring them all together into one composite icon to create this. Yes, what a beautiful icon it really is. And in front of us, we've got the standard setup, as you can see. And just above the preview, we've got the cloud view, the cloud shape, the sun view, the rain view, and the rain shape. And I have made a couple of changes inside the implementations, specifically regarding the rain, where I've just changed the raindrops to be a little bit more pleasing to me. Nothing major, but you can browse that to your heart's content in the source that I will link to in the description below. But what we're going to focus on in this episode is going on up here. So we've got this composite icon on line 11. That is going to be the thing that contains our elements. And the elements are the things that we are going to use to control the position and scale of these things. As you can see, I've put the implementations for those inside their own geometry readers because for me, it's clearer if I don't have to pass in scaling and offset information into these views. The way I see it is that the element views are integral parts of the composite icon view. So it doesn't matter to me that they are also aware of where they are in space and how big they are, and that they can control that individually, because ultimately what it means is that I can focus in my composite icon on things like when they appear and how they appear, rather than arranging them specifically, which means I cut down on the clutter in my main view. So the first thing we're going to do to pull it all together is put these things in a Z stack in the composite icon view at the top here. So let's go up here and put in this Z stack. There's the Z stack. We'll put the sun element in first and say that showing rays is true to start with. And before we put the other two in, let's just scale this thing and position it properly. I'm going to give this sun a scale of 0.7. Scale 0.7, just like that. Now handily, you can see the border of our shape there. And what I'm going to do is butt up these icons as close to the border as possible, well, on the border, and use padding to actually give me the negative space around these icons to make them look a little bit better. So let's give it an offset that is going to be based on the size of the geometry proxy. Offset, and I can pass in an actual size here, geo size scaled, and I'm going to pass in a width scale and a height scale. So I'm going to say 0.15 and minus 0.15. So it's being moved the same amount in the X and the Y, but we're going up in the Y. So that one has to be negative. Okay, that's the sun in place. And now because the rain and the sun are behind the cloud, the next thing we're going to put in is the rain. So we go up to our view here and say rain element. And now we're going to scale it by the same amount as we did the sun. We say scale 0.7. And you might be wondering, if I'm scaling everything to 0.7, then why not just make them that size in the first place? It's a good question, but the answer is that in this case, we're making a composite icon. All right, so we want these things to be slightly smaller so they don't take up the whole view. If you're doing just the sun or just the clouds or maybe a different composite icon, they might want to be different sizes, which is why they're scaled to the frame to begin with to give you as much flexibility as possible and also standardize it in some way. So that's why we're going to scale everything manually, in this case to 0.7. And now we need to offset this rain to the correct position. But to do that, we need to know where the raindrops are going to be popping in relation to the cloud, because the cloud is going to be obscuring that. And the way we do that is by pulling in the cloud and then giving it an opacity. So we say cloud element. We give it an opacity of 0.5. Now we're going to position it, and we know we're going to give it a scale of 0.7. And the position I've chosen for this one butts it right up against the left and lifts it up a bit. Offset, geo, size scaled, minus 0.15 and minus 0.03. Okay, that's in the correct position, and now we can see where the rain is in relation to that. We're going to rotate it first. So let's go to the rain element and say rotate 30 degrees. Okay, lovely. But we've got a small problem here in that the rain is now in the animated position. The reason for that is that when you're previewing and you're not running it, it will run whatever is in on appear, which means it's in the animated position. we'd like it to be in the non-animated position so we can see where this thing starts. And we can do that quite simply by going to the rain view here and setting raining manually to false, okay? And now it's going to be in the non-animated position, the non-raining position, so we can see the first raindrops in this animation. And we want to make sure that that group of raindrops is fully encompassed by the cloud. So let's go back up to our rain element and put an offset in. Offset, we're going to give it another size based on the geometry proxy, geo size scaled minus 0.19 and 0.23. And now you can see they are completely obscured. So now we can go down to our rain view again and set that to raining. So when I play this, we should be able to see them popping in, but that popping in is completely obscured by the cloud. There we are. Looks great. So there are only a couple of things remaining for this episode. I'm going to put some padding around this icon, and I'm going to make sure those raindrops don't escape by constraining it to a rounded rectangle, and then I'm going to put a shadow on it. So let's go up to our main view. We can just get rid of that now. Then we can put some padding on it. And notice how even though the icon has been pushed in by the padding and the overall size has therefore changed, because we have made everything size agnostic, the relationships between the elements as well as the relative sizes remain fixed. There are just so many benefits to working like this. And with that in mind, because we're going to constrain this to a rounded rectangle, we'd like to base the corner radius on the size of the frame. So we need another geometry reader. Geometry reader, let's take this slot, cut it, paste it in there. And now we can say clip rounded rectangle, geo width scaled 0.07. We're also going to fill that rounded rectangle with white. Fill color white. If I'm going to put a shadow on this, I don't want the individual elements to have shadows on them. I want the rounded rectangle to have a shadow on it. So we have to do that. And now I can say shadow geo width scaled 0.02. Now, the sharp-eyed among you may notice that since we added this padding, we can now see the top of the last group of raindrops just in view there, which means it's going to be popping out at that point. We've made the icon smaller, so that means we can see more of the extent of where the raindrops are going before they go out of view. So to combat this, we can offset it down and to the left a bit because we gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room when we set up the obscuring of the raindrops by the cloud. So let's go down to our rain element here and just change these to minus 0.2 and 0.26. And at this point, I should be able to go to our preview, play, and see our wonderful animated icon in all its glory. Isn't it lovely? And in the next episode, we're going to work on the reveal of the icon. So join me for that. It's going to be brilliant. If you're liking it so far, don't forget to hit the like button to let me know. And if you want to see the rest of this, and believe me, you really want to see how this thing finishes, then consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them below. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me. See you next time.